The city was quiet that night. Streetlights stood like lonely guards along the empty road. The sound of tires rolling over wet pavement echoed softly in the dark. It was past midnight when Eliza Moore drove her black sedan through the neighborhood. Was wearing a simple coat. Her silver hair was tied back neatly. Her hands stayed steady on the wheel. She had just finished visiting a local shelter. She quietly supported. No cameras, no attention, just kindness. As she turned the corner near a gas station, blue and red lights suddenly flashed behind her. A police car. She pulled over calmly. Inside the car, Officer Chase Riker, a young man in his late 20s, smirked as he approached. He had stopped her for one reason. She looked out of place in this part of town. And to him, an older black woman in a nice car after midnight didn't make sense. He didn't say hello. He didn't ask questions politely. He tapped his flashlight hard on her window. "License and registration," he said coldly. Eliza rolled the window down halfway. "Good evening, officer. May I ask why I'm being stopped?" Chase laughed softly. "Are you talking back to me?" Now she stayed calm. "No, sir. I just want to understand." He stared at her. "Step out of the car." Humiliation on the road. Eliza sighed gently and opened the door. She stood tall, her back straight, her face still kind. She didn't argue. She didn't fight. Chase circled the car slowly, checking her plates, pretending to be doing his job. But really, he was trying to make her feel small. Another car passed by and slowed down. Watching. Eliza handed over her ID and registration. Chase looked at the ID, then back at her. He chuckled. "Eliza Moore, huh? Fancy name?" he mocked. She nodded gently. "Yes, that's me." He held the ID up and grinned at his body cam. Then he did something that shocked even her. He tore the ID in half, right in front of her. Then he laughed. "You think this little card makes you somebody?" he sneered. "You think your nice car, your neat coat, or your fancy name scares me?" Eliza didn't move. Her voice was soft. "You just made a mistake, officer." He stepped closer. "Oh really? What are you gonna do? Write a letter? Cry on the news?" She looked him in the eyes, calm as ever. "No, I won't need to." The laughing officer. Chase walked back to his car, still laughing. Tossing the torn ID into the front seat, he radioed in the stop but made no report. Just another Karen with attitude. He told his partner over the radio, thought she was somebody. Then he posted a photo of the torn ID on a private group chat with other officers. Some of them replied with laughing emojis. One even said, "Should have made her walk home." Back on the road, Eliza got into her car and drove away. No anger. No fear. Just silence. But inside her mind, something had changed. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She planned the quiet. Power. Eliza arrived at her downtown penthouse quietly that night. Her driver usually picked her up, but she had wanted to drive herself this evening. She often did when she needed to feel grounded, to remind herself of the roads she once walked before the money, before the titles. She walked into the private elevator, greeted by a guard who said, "Good night, chairwoman." She smiled softly. "Thank you, Michael." Inside the elevator, she pulled out her backup ID from her purse. Of course she had more than one. Of course she had protection. She was Eliza Moore, billionaire investor, founder of Moore Enterprises, and silent supporter of over a dozen charities, including those that trained better police officers. She sat in her penthouse that night, sipping tea. Her assistant Rosa called. "You got home safe?" Rosa asked. "Yes," Eliza replied, "but I had an interesting moment with a young officer tonight." Rosa sounded worried. "Did he harm you?" "No," Eliza said. "But he tore up my ID, thought it was funny." There was a pause. "What should we do?" Rosa asked. Elisa looked out the window at the city lights. "Nothing yet. Let's see how loud his laughter is. When he finds out who I really am." A rising storm by morning. The story hadn't hit the news, but a young woman at the gas station had filmed the whole thing from her car. She posted the video with the caption, "He tore up her ID like she was trash." But she didn't even flinch. Who was this lady? The video began to spread. People were curious. Who was the woman who didn't scream, who didn't curse, who didn't fight, but still felt powerful? By noon, the video had over 20,000 views. By evening, it had 1 million. And still, Eliza said nothing. Officer Chase Riker sat frozen in the captain's office. His smile was gone. His hands, once full of pride, now trembled as he stared at the screen. The photo of Eliza Moore glowed on the monitor, her confident face, her kind eyes, and the bold headline beneath it, "Eliza Moore, billionaire CEO, philanthropist, founder of Moore Enterprises." "This has to be a joke," Chase muttered. But the captain's face was stone cold. "No joke," the captain said. "You tore up the idea of a billionaire. On camera, and now the internet is watching." Chase swallowed hard. Mockery in the station at first. Chase tried to pretend it didn't matter. He laughed it off with other officers. "She's just some rich lady playing victim." But the whispers had already started. The video was all over the internet. One clip showed him laughing. Another showed Eliza standing calm while he mocked her. On TikTok, young people posted reactions like, "She handled that better than I ever could." He didn't know he was messing with a queen. "This is why we need better police training." A meme went viral. Eliza Moore's face with the caption, "Grace in silence, power in truth." And the worst part, His badge number was now public. Eliza's silence meanwhile. Eliza didn't speak a word to the press. She stayed silent. She didn't post anything, didn't hold any press conferences, didn't even give interviews. People online began calling her the Silent Storm. But inside her office, she was working. Rosa, her assistant, sat across from her. "We have over 3 million views now," Rosa said. "Everyone wants to hear from you." Eliza nodded, but said nothing. "We could sue the department," Rosa added. Eliza finally spoke. "Not yet." Rosa was surprised. "Why not?" Eliza looked out the window calmly. "Because the truth is still walking. Let's wait until it starts running." Chase's arrogance at the station. Chase was called into a disciplinary meeting. He wore his uniform, but his shoulders were less proud. The internal affairs officer looked at him. "You understand the seriousness of your actions, Officer Riker?" Chase shrugged. "It's not like I hurt her." The officer raised an eyebrow. "You tore up her government ID and mocked her on duty. That's destruction of property and abuse of power." Chase leaned back. "So what? People like her always think they're above the law." The officer stared at him for a long moment, then quietly said, "She is the law, Riker. She's donated more to public safety than you've earned in your entire career." Chase's mouth opened, but again, no words came. Behind closed doors that evening, Eliza sat in her private study. Stacks of letters sat on her desk. Some were from strangers, thanking her for staying calm. Some were from other women, black, brown, poor, rich, all sharing similar stories. She opened one from a teenage girl. "I saw what he did to you, but you didn't break. You looked strong. I want to be like you one day." Eliza's eyes became misty. She folded the letter gently and placed it inside a leather notebook. Then she looked at Rosa and said, "It's time." "Time for what?" Rosa asked. Eliza stood slowly to show them who I am. The interview with the next day. The world watched as Eliza Moore finally spoke. Not on a flashy news channel, not in a big press room. She chose a quiet local radio show run by a young black host named Tariq James. The station was small, but the story was big. Tariq looked nervous as Eliza walked into the studio in a plain navy blue dress. "Ms. Moore, I am honored," she smiled. "Just call me Elisa." They sat across from each other, microphones ready. Tariq leaned in. "Why now? Why speak today?" Eliza looked directly into the camera. "Because silence speaks for a time. But sometimes, truth needs a voice." Her words go viral. Elisa's voice was soft, but steady. She didn't shout, she didn't curse. She told her story calmly. She talked about the night she was stopped, about the feeling of being judged, about how often it happens, not just to her, but to many. She ended with this line, "It's not about my money, it's about respect. If they can laugh while tearing my ID, imagine what they do to those with no voice, no wealth, no camera." The clip of her final sentence hit 10 million views by midnight. And with it came fire. Pressure builds at civil rights groups started petitions. TV hosts demanded action. A lawyer named Tasha Green, known for exposing bad cops, took interest. She tweeted, "If the department doesn't fire that officer, we'll take it to court. Let's find out who he really is." That same night, an old college friend of Chase's posted anonymously, "Riker wasn't just rude to Eliza Moore, he bullied others too. One of them ended up hospitalized." The internet went wild. Now it wasn't just about Eliza, it was about a pattern of abuse. The city buzzed with tension. News channels, websites, and social media were filled with one name, Eliza Moore. People now knew her not just as a billionaire, but as a woman of silence, strength, and respect. The video of Officer Chase Riker tearing her ID had spread like wildfire. But now, something bigger was happening. An investigation had started. The Internal Affairs visit 2 days after Eliza's radio interview. 2 serious-looking officers walked into the precinct. They were from Internal Affairs, the department that investigates police misconduct. Everyone in the station went silent. One of the officers called out, "Officer Chase Riker, come with us." Chase stood up slowly. He tried to smile like nothing was wrong, but sweat was already forming on his forehead as he followed them down the hallway. He passed other officers who didn't meet his eyes. Some used to laugh with him. Now, they looked away. The interrogation room. Chase sat in a cold gray room. No windows, just a table, 2 chairs, and a camera recording everything. The Internal Affairs officer sat across from him. Her voice was firm but calm. "Do you know why you're here, Officer Riker?" Chase forced a smile. "Because people are overreacting to a traffic stop." She didn't smile back. "Let's talk about the video," she said. "You tore a citizen's ID, mocked her, and failed to report the incident. That's serious." Chase leaned forward. "She was just acting like she was better than everyone else." The officer raised her eyebrow. "She is better than most. She's a billionaire, a philanthropist, and a major supporter of police funding. But even if she wasn't, no one deserves that treatment." Chase had no answer. She slid a file across the table. "We also have reports from your past. Complaints from 4 other civilians. One ended up in the hospital after your arrest. All the reports are similar aggression, mockery, and racial remarks." Chase's face dropped. His record was no longer hidden. Elisa's quiet meeting at the same time. Elisa was sitting in a quiet cafe with a woman named Tasha Green, a civil rights lawyer known for exposing corrupt systems. Tasha placed her laptop on the table. Everything's moving fast now. People want justice. Eliza stirred her tea slowly. I don't want revenge, she said softly. I want change. Tasha nodded. We can do both. Eliza smiled gently. Then let's begin. They began reviewing emails, reports, and complaint stories from people who had been harassed, ignored, or hurt by bad officers like Chase. Some had no proof, some had shaky video, but Eliza didn't care. She believed them, and she had the power to amplify their voices. The media stormed. TV anchors began inviting guests to discuss the case. One said, "This isn't just about Eliza Moore. This is about power, race, and responsibility." Another asked, "How many more officers like Chase Riker are out there?" On a podcast, an activist said, "If this can happen to a billionaire, what happens to the rest of us?" People began sharing their own stories using the hashtag #IamIllisudo victims, mothers, fathers, teenagers, all, telling the world about stops, stares, searches, and silence. The streets didn't burn with fire but with truth. Pressure on the mayor called a press conference. He stood in front of microphones with a serious face. "We are deeply troubled by the recent events involving Officer Riker. I have spoken personally with Ms. Elisa Moore. She has shown grace, strength, and leadership. We are cooperating fully with the investigation." Behind him stood the police chief, silent, ashamed. Reporters shouted questions. Will Officer Riker be fired? Has he done this before? What changes will be made? The mayor gave no clear answers, but everyone knew something was coming. Chase breaks down that night. Chase sat in his apartment, drinking alone. His phone was filled with angry messages. Old friends had unfollowed him. His own sister texted, "You embarrassed us." He looked into the mirror, red-eyed. "They don't understand," he said to himself. But deep down, he knew he had crossed a line. Not just because Eliza was rich, but because he had forgotten how to be human. Eliza's decision back in her office. Elisa looked out her tall glass window at the city below. Rosa entered the room with a folder. "This is a list of people who were hurt by him or others like him." Eliza turned slowly. She opened the folder. Stories, faces, names. Some with tears, some with bruises. She closed the folder. "We'll set up a fund," she said, "to help them. Legal aid, medical support, whatever they need." Rosa smiled. "That's beautiful," Elisa added, "and tell the mayor I'm ready for a public statement." The city was no longer calm. After Eliza Moore's powerful speech, things changed fast. She had stood in front of the world and spoken not just for herself, but for everyone who had ever been disrespected, ignored, or hurt because of who they were. The video of her speech went viral again. News anchors called her the billionaire with a voice. But as her light grew stronger, so did the shadows behind her. Chase's defenders appear. While most people supported Elisa, a small group of people online started defending Chase Riker. They said things like, "He was just doing his job. She overreacted. He didn't know who she was." Some even tried to make Eliza the villain. They posted edited videos. They dug up old articles and tried to twist her past. One comment went viral. "If she wasn't rich, no one would care. Why do billionaires always act like victims?" This was the backlash, and it was growing. Anonymous threats. Eliza's assistant Rosa looked nervous as she entered the office. "Ma'am," she said softly, "you've been getting threats." Eliza raised her eyebrows. "What kind of threats?" Rosa showed her the messages. "Stay quiet, or else. You're ruining a good man's life. You'll regret this." Some messages were even worse. Some mentioned her family. Eliza closed the phone slowly. She stayed calm, but her eyes darkened. "Have we reported them?" "Yes," Rosa said. "The police are investigating." Eliza gave a quiet smile. "Let's see if they investigate their own with the same energy." Chase's public breakdown. Meanwhile, Chase Riker was losing control. He sat on a talk show invited by a host who wanted to defend him, but the interview went badly. The host asked, "Chase, do you regret what happened?" Chase shook his head. "No. She came at me with an attitude. These people always act." He stopped himself. But it was too late. Social media exploded. These people. Clips from the interview spread instantly. Even people who had defended him began to walk away. The comments were harsh. "This is who he really is. He just buried himself on live TV." Eliza never raised her voice. "Look at him now." The protest. Days later, a peaceful protest was organized outside the police station. Hundreds of people showed up. They held signs like, "Respect, Black women, justice. Not fear, I am Eliza." People spoke, sang, and told stories. Eliza didn't attend, but she sent a message through the speakers. "This is not a war. This is a wake-up call. Let it be loud enough to change something." As her voice echoed through the streets, even some officers inside the station listened quietly. One whispered, "She's not just a billionaire, she's a movement." Inside, the department behind closed doors. The police chief was under pressure, the mayor was angry, donors were backing out, and now, other officers had started speaking up. A young rookie named Jared stepped forward. He gave a written report about how Chase bullied suspects and even other officers. He made me tear up a boy's sketchbook once, Jared said. The kid was only drawing, but Chase said he looked suspicious. The police chief looked tired. The walls were closing in. Eliza's secret meeting. One night, Elisa met with a group of city leaders, lawyers, activists, business people. They weren't loud, they were powerful. One of them asked, "What do you want us to do, Elisa?" Elisa looked around the table and said, "We fix the system, not just fire one man. We build something that makes sure this doesn't happen again." Another nodded. "You have our full support." And just like that, a quiet revolution began, not with fire, but with focus. The turning point, a surprise, came the next morning. Chase Riker's own father, a retired police captain, gave an interview. He said, "My son failed. He forgot that the badge means service, not power." The city was shocked. Even Chase didn't expect it, but the truth was no longer on his side. Eliza had not attacked him. She had simply stood tall, and the truth followed her. The night was cold and quiet. Rain still fell gently, tapping against the windows of Eliza Moore's tall glass mansion. Inside, Rosa opened the door slowly. There stood a man, tall, serious, dressed in black, his eyes sharp and calm. He stepped in without a word. Eliza stood at the top of the stairs, looking down. Her voice was soft. "Welcome home, Elijah." A long time apart, they hadn't spoken in years. After their parents died, Eliza took over the family businesses. She stayed strong, stayed public, stayed powerful. But Elijah, he walked away from it all. He had left the city, the money, the name, the fame. He became a lawyer in small towns. He helped poor families. He never used the Moore name again. Until now. Eliza led him into the living room. Fireplace warm. "Tea ready?" They sat in silence for a moment. Then Elijah finally spoke. "I saw the video, Eliza." She nodded. "It's everywhere. I saw you stand tall," he added. "But I also saw the danger behind your eyes." Eliza looked at her. "I'm tired." Elijah, not scared, just tired. "Why?" He came back. Elijah leaned forward. "You never asked for help, not once. So when I saw that press conference, and when I heard about the threats," he looked her in the eyes, "I knew it was time." Eliza smiled softly. "You didn't have to come." "I know," he replied. "That's why I did." The sibling bond late into the night. They talked out about their childhood, their mother's lessons, their father's discipline, how they were taught to be silent, to be strong, to work harder, just to be seen. But now things were different. Now the world was watching, and Elijah had returned for one reason: to protect his sister and help fix a broken system. The legal plant. The next morning, Elijah wore a crisp gray suit and entered the city's courthouse. He wasn't just a man now. He was Attorney Elijah Moore. Eliza stood beside him, and behind them, cameras flashed. They weren't suing just for Eliza. They were launching a case against Officer Riker, the police department, and the city government for years of injustice. It wasn't about money, it was about truth. Officer Riker's panic in a dark apartment? Chase Riker watched the news. His face turned pale when he saw Elijah Moore standing next to Eliza. He grabbed his phone, called his lawyer. "They're bringing her brother in. He's some fancy civil rights guy." The lawyer paused, then replied, "You're in real trouble now, Chase." For the first time, Chase felt something he had never allowed himself to feel. Fear. City officials. In trouble. The mayor held a private meeting with his advisors. "This is getting out of hand," he said. "First the video, then the speech. Now her brother," one advisor added, "and people are digging into old complaints. We might be next." The mayor rubbed his forehead. "We need to do something fast, or the people will come for all of us." Behind closed doors, politicians started cleaning up their own records. But it was already too late. The people had started to rise. The people support in the streets. People painted murals of Eliza and Elijah side by side. Signs read, "Truth has a voice. Justice is more than a name. We are not afraid." Social media was now flooded with messages of support. Even international news channels picked up the story. A reporter in London said, "This isn't just a legal battle. It's a civil rights wave led by a quiet woman and her brave brother." The press conference. Elijah held his first press conference. Microphones. Journalists. Flashes. He spoke calmly. "We are not here to destroy. We are here to rebuild. The badge should protect, not scare. The law should lift, not crush. And no one, no matter their race, should be disrespected by those in power." A reporter asked, "Is this personal?" Elijah smiled. "Yes, it's personal. But not just for me. For millions of people who have stayed silent for too long." Chase's last move. Feeling cornered, Chase met with a man in a dark parking lot. The man handed him a USB. "What's this?" Chase asked. "Something from Eliza's past. Might ruin her." Chase stared at it. He thought of all he had lost. But as he held the USB, a strange feeling grew in his chest. He wasn't proud. He wasn't confident. He was simply empty. Ending scene. Hook for part 6. Back at Eliza's mansion. She stood on the balcony, watching the city lights. Elijah walked up beside her. "You've made people believe," he said. She replied, "Now we make them act." Suddenly, Rosa rushed to the balcony with panic in her voice. "Ma'am, you need to see this." She held out her phone. On the screen was a breaking news alert. Leaked documents suggest Eliza Moore hid a secret from the public. Face turned cold. Elijah's jaw tightened. The fight had just taken a darker turn. Eliza Moore stood frozen on her balcony. The city lights glittered below, but her world had just cracked. Her assistant Rosa jammed a phone in her hand. On the screen was a breaking news alert. Leaked document suggests Eliza Moore hid a secret from the public. Eliza's heart pounded. She stared at the headline as if it were poison. A city in shock within minutes. The story exploded online. What did Eliza hide? Asked millions. Is the silent storm really a cunning typhoon? Tweeted critics. She's untouchable, wrote some defenders. She's a hypocrite, wrote others. News channels clawed for every detail. Headlines ran, Billionaire under fire. The Moore scandal from philanthropist to phantom. What didn't she tell us? Elijah Moore entered the room quietly. He looked at Eliza's pale face. What's happening? She pointed at the phone. Someone leaked an old contract. It says I forced dozens of families from their homes 10 years ago. Elijah's face tightened. That doesn't sound like you. Eliza shook her head. It was a long time ago, but they say I did it on purpose. The leaked document. Rosa set up the dossier on a large screen in Eliza's private office. The document was real, a signed contract between Moore Enterprises and a small town outside the city. It showed Eliza's company agreed to buy land, also to evict residents with no warning. Under the signatures was a handwritten note. Must clear all homes by March. It was dated 10 years back, when Eliza was still young and learning the business. Eliza swallowed hard. I didn't see this note. Someone must have added it. Elijah nodded. We'll investigate. But first, we must face the public. The emergency press statement. 10 hours later. Cameras lined up outside the Moore building. Eliza wore a dark suit and stood behind a simple podium. Reporters shouted questions. Is this true? Ms. Moore, did you knowingly evict those families? Will you resign? Eliza took a deep breath. Her voice was calm but firm. I learned about this document today. I did not know of its final form. If mistakes were made, I take responsibility for them. I promise a full, transparent review. No one at Moore Enterprises will be protected by money or power. The crowd murmured. Some nodded. Some scowled. Eliza turned away quickly. Her legs shook. She nearly stumbled before Elijah caught her arm. Backstage whispers behind the cameras. Rosa and Elijah conferred quietly. People want names, Rosa said. They want to know who added that note. Elijah closed his eyes. We need to find the leaker fast before the rumor machine buries us. Social media frenzy. By evening, social media was ablaze. #More mystery trended worldwide. Influencers posted side-by-side photos, Elisa at a charity event, and the eviction document. One blogger wrote, who wants to bet Elisa's enemies from 10 years ago dug this up. Even the original video of Officer Riker's stop felt distant now. The narrative had shifted. Eliza watched it all alone in her study. She typed a private message to a trusted friend. I need help. I don't know who to trust. The suspects. Eliza and Elijah compiled a list. A rival real estate tycoon who once fought Moore Enterprises. A former executive fired for an old friend who blamed Eliza for a lost inheritance. Officer Chase Riker, still bitter and eager for revenge. Elijah tapped his pen. We check them all, and we check inside the company. Eliza nodded. Start now. A hidden camera late. That night, Rosa reviewed security footage from the Moore building. She paused when she saw a masked figure slip into Eliza's office during a charity gala last month. The figure picked up a stack of papers and walked away with them. Rosa's breath caught. Elijah, look. On the screen, the figure's coat had a small emblem, the same badge design that appeared on Riker's old uniform. Elijah's eyes widened. Chase could have faked that. But why? Confrontation in the dark. Elijah and Rosa found Chase's address from public records. They arrived at his apartment building after midnight. They knocked on his door. Footsteps approached. The door swung open. Chase stood there, face pale and tired. Elijah stepped forward. We need answers. Chase's lip trembled. I'm sorry. Rosa held up a photo from the footage. You took this. Why? Chase looked down. He told me Harold. Donovan's people? They promised money if I paid her back for the video. Elijah frowned. Harold? He's in jail. Chase shook his head. No, someone used his name. But they worked with people who hated your family. Eliza's world felt like it spun off. Its axis. A new threat before they could ask more. Chase's phone buzzed. He read the message and went white. You got too close. Stop, Nor. We expose everything. Elijah grabbed the phone. Show us who sent it. But the message vanished. No sender. No trace. Chase whispered. They erased the trail fast. Rising stakes. Elijah and Rosa stood in the dimly lit hallway. Rosa clenched her fists. They're not just after you. They're after the Moore name. Elijah nodded. And they know our weak points. Eliza's eyes filled with determined tears. Then we fight. She pulled out her phone and sent one message. Meet me at the old warehouse. Midnight. The warehouse was an abandoned building on the city's edge. The perfect. Eliza Moore stood inside the cold, dark warehouse. A single light bulb swung slowly from the ceiling. Shadows danced on the walls. She stared at the figure in front of her, a man wearing a dark coat, his face still hidden in the shadows. "You wanted answers," the man said. "Now you'll get them." Eliza didn't flinch. "Who are you?" the man chuckled. "I'm just the messenger, but the truth I carry will change everything." A voice from the past. The man pulled out a small metal case. Inside it was a flash drive. He handed it to Elisa. "This contains a recording," he said, "from someone you once trusted, someone close to you." Elisa narrowed her eyes. "Why give it to me?" "Because the game has gone too far," the man replied. "And some of us don't want to see the whole city burn." Before Eliza could ask more, the man turned and disappeared into the darkness. The video filed back at her mansion. Eliza sat beside Elijah and Rosa. They plugged the flash drive into a secure laptop. The file opened. A blurry video played. In the video, a younger Eliza sat at a boardroom table with several older men. One man was speaking loudly. "We'll clear the area and resell the land. They'll get nothing." Then came a voice familiar, smooth, and sharp. "Don't worry. I'll make sure Elisa doesn't see that part of the contract. Leave it to me," Eliza gasped. "That's single quotes S. Victor. Richter Bailey, her former mentor, her father's closest friend, the man who helped raise her after her parents died, the man she had trusted for everything." Betrayal uncovered. Elijah leaned forward, eyes wide. "He tricked you," Rosa whispered. "He made you sign that contract without knowing the truth." Eliza stared at the screen. Her hands shook. "All these years, I thought I was helping people, but I was used." Elijah placed a hand on her shoulder. "This is the proof we need. You were innocent." Eliza's eyes filled with tears, but not of sadness. They were tears of clarity, strength. "Then it's time the world knows." Going public. The next morning, Eliza stood in front of a sea of cameras once again. This time, she held the flash drive in her hand. Her voice was calm but powerful. "Last night, I received new evidence. A trusted man from my past used my name, my signature, and my silence to hurt families. His name is Victor Bailey." The crowd gasped. Elisa continued, "I take full responsibility for not seeing it sooner, but I will not take the blame for evil I did not commit." She looked directly into the cameras. "To every family that suffered, I am sorry, and I will make it right." Victor's reaction somewhere across the city. In a fancy office, Victor Bailey threw his glass against the wall. "She wasn't supposed to find out," he shouted. One of his assistants spoke nervously. "What do we do now?" Victor sneered. "She wants a war. Fine, let's give her one." He picked up his phone and dialed a number. "Tell the others to release everything, every secret, every deal. I want her buried." City turns against her. Again within hours, more old files started appearing online. Some real, some fake. Photos of Eliza at high-end parties, leaked emails, twisted out of context. Headlines screamed, "Is Eliza really the victim?" More family secrets exposed, truth or manipulation. The people were confused again. Some believed her, some doubted her, and some just watched for the drama. Elijah's plan at home? Elijah paced the room. "We can't fight lies with more words," he said. "We need action." He opened a folder full of names people Victor had heard over the years. "We gather them," he said. "Let them tell their stories." Together, Rosa nodded. "Let the people speak, not the papers." Eliza stood tall. "Then let's give them a stage." The People's Conference. A few days later, Eliza and Elijah hosted a public gathering in the city square. There were no fancy lights, no rich guests, just real people and raw truth. One by one, families came forward. A single mother who was evicted because of Victor's hidden deals, a shop owner whose land was stolen, a retired teacher who once warned Eliza but was silenced. They all spoke, and Eliza listened. With each voice, the crowd grew. With each truth, the lies fell apart. Victor's final move. Victor watched the live stream, growing angrier with every word. "This was supposed to ruin her," he said. Then his assistant whispered, "There's one last thing." She handed him a black envelope. Inside was a photo. Victor's eyes lit up. "Now this will destroy her." A dark package arrives. Cliffhanger. That night, back at the Moore mansion, Rosa brought a package to Eliza's room. "No return address," Rosa said. Eliza opened it slowly. Inside was a photo. Her eyes widened. She dropped the envelope. Elijah picked up the photo and gasped. It showed a young Eliza standing with a man, holding a bag of money. On the back, written in red ink, "You thought the past was buried? Not yet." Eliza whispered, "That's not real. That's edited. It has to be." But the fear had already begun to spread. The enemy had played his darkest card. Eliza Moore sat alone in her study, staring at the photo on her desk. It showed her younger self with a strange man and a bag of money. The red ink on the back haunted her. "You thought the past was buried? Not yet." Elijah and Rosa stood quietly near the door. No one spoke. The room was heavy with tension. "It's fake," Eliza finally whispered. "We know," Elijah said, "but the world doesn't." A flood of doubt within hours. The photo was all over the news. Eliza Moore caught in secret. Who was the man in the picture? Was she lying all along? The internet was full of noise. Supporters were silent. Enemies celebrated. Victor Bailey sat in his dark office, smiling with pride. "Game over," he said. But not yet. Rosa burst into Eliza's room, holding a tablet. We found something, she said, breathless. Look at this. On the screen was a high-resolution scan of the leaked photo, but when zoomed in, Rosa pointed to a small shadow. Look, here, see that line? The lighting doesn't match. And the hand, it's not even yours. Elijah leaned in. It's a Photoshop job. Eliza's eyes lit up with hope. Can we prove it? Rosa nodded. Yes, and more. She pulled out another file. This man in the photo, his name is Terrence Wolfe. He worked for Victor 10 years ago. The real story comes out that night. Eliza released a video statement to the public. It was simple, just her face and her voice. A photo was sent to me, a photo meant to destroy me. But the truth is stronger than any lie. She showed the photo on screen, then the analysis. Then a real photo from the same day. 10 years ago, Eliza, at a charity school across the country. She continued. Victor Bailey used me, lied to me, and when I stood up, he tried to bury me. But I will not be buried. The people rise. The internet exploded again, but this time, in Eliza's favor. Hashtags like hashtag stand with Eliza, hashtag more truth, and hashtag Victor exposed trended everywhere. Victims of Victor came forward from all over the country. Reporters dug up dozens of illegal deals tied to his name. Even government officials began an investigation. Victor tried to run, but the FBI knocked on his door the next morning. He was arrested live on television. Justice at last. A week later, Eliza walked into a courtroom not as a criminal, but as a witness. She stood tall as Victor Bailey was led and handcuffed. The judge asked if she had any final words. Eliza looked straight at Victor. You thought you could break me. You thought truth didn't matter, but you forgot one thing. She looked at the crowd behind her. Families, workers, strangers, and friends. People see now. They know what you did, and they know who I am. Victor didn't respond. His eyes were full of silent defeat. The judge gave the final sentence. 25 years in federal prison. Cheers erupted in the courtroom. A surprise guest after the trial. As Eliza stepped outside, a quiet voice called out from the crowd. Excuse me. Eliza turned out. An elderly black woman stood there. Her face was kind, her eyes warm. Do you remember me? She asked softly. Elisa blinked. You're the woman from the street. The day the police officer stopped me. The woman smiled. I watched it all. From the beginning. I knew you were special. She held Eliza's hand. You reminded the world what dignity looks like. Tears filled Eliza's eyes. Thank you, she whispered. Back to the streets weeks later. Elisa returned to the same corner where the story had begun, the place where Officer Riker tore her ID and laughed. But now, people smiled when they saw her. Some took photos. Others simply nodded in respect. A young girl ran up to her and asked, Miss Moore, will you keep helping people? Eliza bent down, smiled, and said, Always. New beginnings. Eliza used her wealth to create a justice foundation, a place where victims of power abuse could get help, lawyers, and support. She opened schools, funded local businesses, and hired those once hurt by Victor's empire. And she didn't do it alone. Elijah became the head of operations. Rosa ran community programs, and Eliza, she became a symbol of hope, not just a billionaire, but a fighter, a listener, a leader who never gave up.